right on 10 o'clock, so why don't we go ahead and get this party started? All right.
Yeah, I do not think Coda is going to join us. Did you see that?
I didn't take a quick look at my phone. Okay, so unfortunately we'll be missing Board Member Black today, but I'd love to get us started for this. I'm still learning all the names to the faces, but I recognize people. So I'm Janie Meunier. This is Jamie Brennan. Hi. I'm so excited to be back to get this started again.
Yes.
Welcome. Good morning.
And so, to kick us off,
Yes.
if that's okay,
Perfect.
you will be approving the minutes, I think, from
Yes.
the June 11th
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
meeting. So if you want to, I
Okay.
know it's been a
Yeah.
while. It's been a little while since
Flies
we've
by,
seen you.
I know, I didn't have that on here, but that's perfect, June 11th. All right. I mean, I had no problem with the meeting.
No, I approve them, yes.
Perfect. Those minutes have been approved for June 11th.
All right, great.
Well, okay.
No public comment, right? No public comment.
And any comments about what we're going into so far? Same, I'm just excited to kind of get
Welcome
started.
back from the summer recess. And so for the members of the public, my name is Kathy Gall. I'm one of the directors of curriculum and instruction.
Scott Murphy, fellow director, curriculum and instruction.
All right, Keith Harris, Chief of Academics and Organizational Development.
Frank Fetter, Director of Assessment, Data Reporting, and Strategic Improvement.
And so we've got two presentations for you today. We're going to kick it off with our wonderful ECE team that will be presenting on pre-K and Judy Centers. And so they're going to start, and then we're going to move over to organizational development over there that will be joining us at the table when it's their turn.
Perfect, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Leslie Fry. I'm the Supervisor of Early Childhood Education and Judy Centers. I have two of my coworkers here, Kathy Allen, who is our Early Childhood Coordinator, who really oversees all things Judy Center, and then Lauren Perry is our Coordinator of Program Quality. So we're just going to walk you through a bit of what we're doing up there in the Early Childhood office. We really do have arms out throughout the community as we focus on birth through kindergarten, all of our families in Frederick County with care of young children. We'll look through this presentation at some of our pre-K updates. We'll talk about some of those partnerships and then enhancements. We are a continuous improvement team, so we're always collecting data and looking at what we can do better from year to year. We'll look at our Judy Center, some of the accomplishments from this past school year, and then we'll look ahead to that kindergarten readiness assessment that is coming back to Maryland and talk a little bit about our team's work in professional learning for kindergarten this next year. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren to talk about some of our pre-K programming updates.
So we all know over the last couple of years we've really focused on pre-K expansion and looking at meeting that Tier 1 demand eligibility. Tier 1 meaning they're students who meet income eligibility for pre-K and expanding those programs. So we are very proud to say that we have a very robust continuum of services for our pre-K programs. In total, we do have 90 pre-K programs across Frederick County Public Schools. Of those 90 programs, we do have 50 which are considered our traditional pre-K. What that means is it's on average a class size of about 20 students with a pre-K teacher and a pre-K instructional assistant. Students qualify for that program based on income eligibility requirements, which means their families apply and fall at 300% or below of the federal poverty level. And we also hold seats within those programs for our students with specialized instruction needs, meaning they access classroom-based instruction per their IEP. An extension of that is our innovative pre-K program, which is an extension of traditional. Those are our programs housed within our high school. So what those programs look like is our students travel to their elementary feeder pattern. They have community time where they engage in breakfast with their instructional assistant and classmates, and then they board a bus with their instructional assistant to travel over to the high school location. Those are unique as it works to solve and promote several areas of Blueprint. Not only are we solving the issue of space as we expand within those pre-K high school locations, but we also look at tailoring career readiness pathways for our high school students. So these students, once they get to the high school, they access their instructional day, but they're usually housed right next to our high school CTE child development classrooms. So throughout that instructional day, those high school students under the guidance of their teacher are coming over to receive access to their internship hours within that high quality pre-K program. We are proud to offer 16 inclusion pre-K programs. Those are a little bit different in class size, slightly smaller. And then how we populate that classroom is that we have 50% of our students come to us via the IEP process, meaning those are students who access instruction based on their individualized education plan, and then the other 50% of the students are populated through that income eligibility process, and then 5 self-contained programs. And what a self-contained program is it's a program designed for students with specialized needs. Those classroom ratios are smaller as we work to tailor our instruction to meet the needs of those students. And then classroom ratios for that, typically that one and inclusion, the classroom's taught by a special educator, and we have 2 to 3 instructional assistants that are tailoring that instruction based on those IEP needs. We also have 13 half-day Inclusion 3-year-old programs. Inclusion 3-year-old programs are designed to service students with specialized needs. So first and foremost, we place those students. The morning is considered a self-contained classroom, meaning only students with specialized needs are accessing either 2 or 4 days. And then that afternoon classroom does offer some limited opportunity for inclusion opportunities. So what that does is we place our students with an IEP need, and when there is space, we do allow first come, first served Tier 1 applicants. Given the size of the program, we can't meet the whole Tier 1 band within that 3-year-old program, but where space allows, we try to fill those up with students. Staffing ratios within that classroom is, again, a special educator who's duly certified in general and special education, and 2 to 3 instructional assistants to support the students with specialized needs. And a little glimpse into our pre-K day. We are accessing the general educational bell schedule just the same way that our elementary age students would, especially for that full day 4-year-old program. General idea of the classroom is that we do have daily instruction delivered in both a whole and a small group. We do administer FCPS assessments, which lead our instructional decisions, our small grouping bases, and our differentiation to meet the needs of our students. Our students do access a 45-minute to 60-minute rest period that's tapered off throughout the school year to ensure they're getting their needs met. We access lunch and specials just like any other elementary age child would, with PE, media, art, and music. And then our students also access guided play centers and recess, which is a very pinnacle part of the preschool day. Not only does it deliver high quality instruction in alignment with our early learning standards, but this is a really pinnacle point to focus on social foundations, guided play opportunities, as well as oral language development. And then looking at pre-K from an enrollment lens, this is our 3rd season where we're completing our centralized enrollment. What that means is through Blueprint, we were called upon to create a centralized enrollment process where all applicants could be screened through central office. So our early childhood office does that. We have, at the time of the presentation, we noted that we had processed about 1,600. Obviously, we know that the tempo is going to continue to bump up. We were at over 1,800 as of yesterday. So we screen all those applicants. We deliver technical assistance to our schools as we annually train them, but also answer questions from front office staff, communicate who meets eligibility criteria, so we create an equitable process, but also help our community with our families and those interested in pre-K to know what they need to submit, what the status of their application is, how they get more information about that. We're very proud that we have implemented a new process for mixed delivery to create a centralized application. Part of Blueprint is that we understand that our parents need choice. So not only do we offer full-day seats within our public school, but we support our community childcare environments as well as creating full-day free seats for eligible families. So we have created an application process where families who meet eligibility, we advertise that there are additional options in the private sector, and we have created a release of information that families have the choice to complete and return to us, to where we can carry over that completed application to those centers. So it breaks down a barrier from a family having to duplicate efforts, but it also helps our community partners to fill their programs. We are in the process of also drafting a multilingual screening process. MSDE has updated new information with a student language portrait, which looks at home language surveys, which is completed by all families who complete a pre-K application to ask about what languages are spoken in the home. And this gives us additional data to understand who may enter kindergarten as a multilingual student, so we can implement processes to possibly look to see if we need more information. So as those students approach kindergarten, we can help support them where they're at. We've also created a centralized database with our Child Find teams, understanding that online enrollment with our students becoming eligible for special education is a year-long process. So this database allows us to understand when a student decision is made that a classroom placement is needed, so that we can quickly support those families with completing enrollment, communicate them to the schools so we prevent any lag or delay of services being provided. I'll turn it over to Leslie for our next update.
Thank you. Talking about some of the enhancements to the programs, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we really do work as an early childhood team across Frederick County. So we partner with our Child Find team, our Judy Center, and our early childhood office. We do bi-yearly retreats, so we are ensuring that we are all getting together. A lot of us cross with the same families, so we ensure that we're not duplicating efforts, but really working with those families and getting children into school and ready for kindergarten. We'll continue those efforts. We are starting a new series of professional learning specifically for our inclusion pre-K teachers. So we're excited about that, really looking at data for those students and ensuring that we are giving them the best possible environment in our classrooms. And then we will continue to refine our preschool projection process. Lauren spoke a little bit to that work. When a family comes through Child Find, we really want to find the best setting for that child. Through that broad continuum, those 90 different classrooms, we really try to find the best placement for each one of those students. We will continue to focus on our high quality instruction in all of our pre-K classrooms. We have been going through, since we started full day pre-K back in 2016, an accreditation process through MSDE. If you've ever been through an accreditation process, it's incredibly rigorous, time-consuming, but we know that it really improves our programs and helps teachers really provide the best environment possible. So we have currently 76 of our pre-K classrooms have been accredited within the last 3 years. We'll do those last 13 this year so that all 90 of our pre-K classrooms in FCPS are fully accredited, and then that's a 5-year cycle. So that work just is continuous. As soon as we start with new classrooms that are accredited, we have those ones that are kind of timing out, and we start working with that process again. We will continue to support our instructional support staff with the CDA, which is Child Development Associates. By July 1st of 2027, all full-time pre-K assistants need to have at minimum a Child Development Associates. So we are helping them work through that process and obtaining that certification if they need it. And then we continually provide professional learning for all of our pre-K staff, including those instructional support staff in those classrooms. As you know, and Laura mentioned a little bit, Blueprint is pretty big in the pre-K world, being Pillar 1. So some of the impacts we're working on currently, of course, Blueprint requires that we provide seats for those Tier 1 families. They are rolling out and just very recently provided information to LEAs about implementing sliding scale, which is paying a cost of the seat. So when we look at that process, and again, very new information has just come to us, it's really going to look at those Tier 2 kids. So the families that qualify between 301 and 600%, they may be able to pay a share of that seat. So the funding that we would get from the state for the cost of that seat, a family will have a portion to pay for that. Of course, Tier 1 families will still automatically be, offered a seat in our full day programs. And then the way that language comes out from the state, a Tier 3 family, so over 600%, would be required to pay the full cost of the seat. We very rarely have additional space for those, but that is the way that legislation is written. And of course, when we submitted these slides 2 weeks ago, we hadn't had that release information, but it was recently published. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more from us in the fall as we really dig into that and look at what that process might look like for spring enrollment season, which begins on March 1st. All right, I'm going to turn it over here to Kathy Allen to talk all things Judy Center.
I'm really excited to be able to share with you just a little bit about our Judy Centers in Frederick County. As you see, we provide the high quality year-round programming to any family and their children prenatal to age 5 who live in that Judy Center school district. So our 6 Judy Center locations are Butterfly, Hillcrest, Lincoln, Monocacy, Tuscarora, and Waverly And we really took advantage of the Blueprint funding over the past 4 years to expand to those 6 sites. We really will be celebrating its 25th anniversary this year as one of the first 13 Judy Centers across the state of Maryland, so it's really exciting for us. The ultimate goal of the Judy Center is to make sure our kiddos are ready for school, ready to learn. And when we look at what each of the Judy Center funding is used for, each site receives $330,000 of grant funds a year, and that funding goes toward a program administrator, an outreach coordinator. We use that funding for programming with, with providing family engagement for families, play groups, professional learning for our staff as well as community providers and community partners. We also offer resources to the families, so a great example is Farm to School. I was out at Tuscarora yesterday. We purchase fresh fruits and vegetables for those families, and the tomatoes are looking beautiful. The other important piece of Judy Centers is our coordination of services with community partners. We really look at making sure we're not duplicating services with partners across the county. We follow MSDE's early learning standards in our programming for all of our events. And we also collect more than 80 data points for the state of Maryland every year at mid and end of year. So we're coming up on the end of our Judy Center grant year. It ends at the end of August. But at the time that we prepared these slides, we had over 1,500 children that the Judy Centers have worked with this year across the 6 sites. Each Judy Center provides at least 3 to 5 play groups per week, year-round, 12 months. We were very busy this summer. And we've held over 275 family engagement events. And at all of our events and services, we make sure that there is food provided for the families, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or evening dinner. At the, excuse me, so looking at what our data allows us to be able to share with the state, there are more and more requirements as far as performance measures that we update yearly and be able to show the impact that the Judy Center's having. So these are just a few quotes from some of our families. We do survey our families to make sure that we're meeting their needs so we can really focus and hone in on each community and see what services or what engagement they would like to be involved with. And we're really proud to say that families show up in droves. That's a nice little picture there of the Waverly programming this summer, where lots and lots of families were in attendance. But you know, if we can really meet the needs of our families where they are, that's really what it's all about in order to help those children be ready for school. So you're welcome to come out and visit us anytime.
The Waverly is in a unique location too, being right in the middle of the community. It's very walkable, so those families can come right through the neighborhood. Very easy to access that way. So I follow them on Facebook. So they always have some really great events.
Ola is excellent.
And I have
social media person for them, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Because even as a PTA person, I would sometimes go there to see, like, hey, what are they doing? Get some inspiration for other things that we could be incorporating and such. So, and I love the Judy Centers. I think they're pretty much sort of the vision of what we would like to see for child development and into education and schooling for every family, right? The options, especially being able to offer food and so forth. I have a couple of questions. Do you have any questions?
No,
before?
go ahead.
Okay. I want to try and go back to my first one, was just the enrollment going into, not the Judy Centers, but the pre-K in general. Is there a cutoff for that before it starts up again?
So enrollment's year-round.
Okay, it is year-round, okay.
Yes, and so whenever a family comes to us, if they meet that Tier 1 eligibility, we continue to post it.
Okay, so if we're reaching classroom size ratios and those kind of maximums in places, are they like bused to a different location, or if they can make it there, like how does that work for a
If we have a
family?
Tier 1 applicant who meets eligibility and their homeschool site has filled, the first thing we do is we reach out to them via email or call. Look at the out-of-district process. Busing isn't always an option unless the family falls into the event category.
Ah, okay.
But we always offer them a C at the next one, and most of our families take up that we haven't.
Okay.
It's a pretty.
Okay. I was curious, because if it's year-round, you could very easily hit those.
We do try to keep that in mind. We use historical enrollment data, so we look at the past 3 or 4 years and say, how many seats should we really conserve? Knowing that, this school got a bump in mid-September the past 2 years. So we really do try to keep that in mind and leave a little bit of leeway here and there in sites that we know may have higher mobility and those students coming year-round. We do get a lot of mobility in January. Families tend to move around a lot, so we do want to ensure, what we don't want to do is a family that's in high need and really struggling to be able to say, sorry, we don't have a seat there.
Exactly,
We
yeah.
can offer you a seat here, but we can't get you there. So it is a
Conversation.
fine-tuned process that we really try to rely on what has happened in that site before.
And that makes sense.
What do we do for community outreach, particularly we probably have a little less moving around. We already have kids in the school district, but particularly for those people who don't have younger students coming in. What do we do to get to those people and say, like, register, and even our current, because you forget, like, I
kindergarten, yeah.
already have kids in school. It's like, oh wait, that last one, I gotta register. You know what I mean? Like,
Train our school staff every year, usually in January to February. Part of that is really a pre-K application campaign.
okay.
All of our schools have razor flags that go out in front of the school to advertise with that. All of our staff is supported with understanding that they have paper applications on site. We really strongly encourage pre-K application at every school site, so it comes out in the s'mores and the communication. And we also work with public relations as well to make sure we're doing social media campaigns. We've sent mailer flyers. If we, again, watching that trend data of where we have lowly enrolled schools, sending out postcard reminders, making sure flyers are available within our community partners so that it's easy to pick up. Healthcare is a huge aspect. SNAP benefits as well, too, to make sure that that's advertised and out there that we're reaching.
Do we ever reach directly and say, like, we know that you had a child that came into this school, or a child came through our program, or you already have kids registered, like, do you have anybody younger you need to register now? Like,
Our school association does ask about younger students within the home, and so we track that data at a school level. And with that, our secretaries are magicians that know all the things, and so they hyper
reaching out.
Yeah, they can pull that data up.
if there are other children in the area, or if we've learned about a grandparent or family member getting kinship care too, we try to wrap our arms around them and make sure that they're aware about pre-K.
And then do you have any partnerships with the private locations, like a Kidd Academy or so forth, to just let folks know, because they may have a neighbor, they may know somebody else as well, or maybe they're trying to incorporate some pre-K enrollment, through this program, through Blueprint, into their school, their place as well. So, in terms of just getting the word out.
So Frederick County has an early childhood advisory committee, and we have served on that in various roles. I'm currently the co-chair, but the folks that are there, stakeholders, are the public libraries, Department of Human Services, Mental Health Association, Child Care Choices. So that is really a network of stakeholders, all things early childhood in Frederick County. So we are looking at enrollment data with them. We're looking at it if they serve families. When the public libraries do their work year-round with families, they're also promoting our pre-K programs. So we always think we can do better. There are families we know that we miss because they come at the very end of August. So we are always looking for ways to improve that. We do try to solicit feedback everywhere we can to find out how do we get to the families that may not have any children in school yet. So they're not getting any of that information.
Right, that's what I'm thinking
They're not
of,
plugged
too.
in yet to just that.
And we try to work with pediatricians, so we try to find where Family Connects is a visiting program for newborns in Frederick County. We think that may be a little bit early.
The seed though, so they remember.
That's exactly right. And those nurses also, we do work with them, so we know if they see a child child in the home. Waverly's seen a huge uptick of infant referrals because of Family Connect. So we really are, when we say that we are out in the community, we are a very unique department in that we don't just exist in the kind of school system here. We really are everywhere because we want to get to them before.
It's not like, we have a ton of room in all of our other enrollment calculations, but with such small class sizes and such tiny
And
designated
requirements,
spaces already, and that makes it a lot difficult when we do have a lot of last minute, I'm sure.
Yes, it's
And people get all their information so many different ways that it can be really difficult to get people to know. And then we have the Enough program that they're still doing the research and trying to pull that data in as well. So hopefully that will also help.
I do want to give kudos to this team actually though, because they are so involved in the community and almost every place that has anything to do with early childhood, they are there. So
That's perfect.
I do know that we need to move on probably to the kindergarten readiness portion of the.
to that. Last but certainly not least, Maryland is welcoming back a kindergarten readiness assessment. This really looks at how kids arrive in kindergarten so that we can look at the prior 5 years of schooling or environments or settings where children were and how it's getting them ready for kindergarten. Yes, exactly. It's not about how they did in their first month of kindergarten, it's really how they're entering school. This new assessment is a Renaissance product. There are 2 portions that are computer adapted, so children will take the early literacy and the early math piece, either on a touchscreen device or on some type of laptop. With a proctor, somebody watching them and making sure, the teacher logs them in and then is kind of watching that child work through that assessment. And then there is a 3rd portion that's called Sabers, and that's really a teacher observation tool. So they're looking at that child the first few weeks of school and kind of noticing and documenting some of the behaviors. Student reports will go home to families for the early literacy and math portions, but that Sabers tool is really used as a talking point for families. If kids are showing they need some growth in some social emotional parts, a teacher can use that to design instruction in the classroom to really see that the whole child is being considered and not just how they come in academically. And then COMAR lays out that all students in kindergarten need to take that assessment by October 10th. So it's a interesting first month and a half of kindergarten.
And I understand with that tight of a timeline and that many students, why we are using digital tools. I get that. At the same time, does the Renaissance program even have here's the first screen? How do you touch the screen?
It does. And actually, there's a component with this one where the teacher does that whole group with the children to all look at it, but then if they don't make it through the practice portion of that assessment, it won't kick into the assessment. So that way a teacher can intervene. There is a paper packet available as an accommodation if a student really struggles. A teacher can also take a student answer and enter it on their behalf. Again, that would have to be documented as an accommodation, but they do try to consider the age of the student.
I mean, and understandably, they have more screens earlier these days, but not every kid does. And trying to make sure that we're not just making a lot of assumptions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then as our team continues and really looks forward to supporting kindergarten this coming school year, all kindergarten teachers will receive their KRA training next Thursday at their curriculum day. We will be in front of kindergarten teachers in November and March for professional learning. And then as always, and we are excited about some of the new faces and new places in our curriculum team, we will be working very intensively with our integrated literacy and elementary math team over the coming year.
What do we do as far as for families that are not already in our programs to say, like, these are the 15 or 20 things your kids should be able to do by the time they get to kindergarten? This is what we expect. Like what?
Like milestones.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like, for everything from opening, being able to put their own coat on, whatever the requirements are. Like, what are we doing to make sure that our broader community knows what's expected?
Good question. We do house resources on our website. So of course that would be a family coming to the website to look for that information. But as I said, a lot of those stakeholder relationships, we actually train the Frederick County Public Librarians about early readiness skills. We look at by age gap, or age group, we'll use the state standards to say 0 to 18 months. These are really those readiness skills that will get that child ready for that next level. So we work to provide professional learning in the community, but we're also taking in professional learning from stakeholders across the county that are working with those families and learning about what do families need to know. Again, a process we're always looking at how do we continue to do that work and how might we do it a little bit better. Our Judy Centers certainly, like you had said, are the prime model of how we support families before school.
It's interesting too, because your pediatrician would normally be a space, right, where they would evaluate to see how are we doing the 6 month, 12 month, right? But then not everyone has that access. Not everyone has a pediatrician they see regularly, and I don't know what sort of sort of communication we might be able to do for those families that we identified as, wow, they just haven't had that opportunity for whatever the reasons may be, that access to get them connected to folks, like even just a pediatrician, getting their vaccine record, right? They have to send in a vaccine and when they've had them, and so that's one way. And there was a vaccine clinic recently or coming up, I think, for schools, right? Yes. That's one way to kind of figure out like who is actually getting that access to regular care that would then help them understand where their milestones are.
Well, I'm just thinking, I did not do, like, I'm not a joiner, so I didn't
You didn't
go
do
to
stuff.
you know what I mean? I didn't take my kids
Totally.
these things, like those things stress me out. So,
Like reading time
right.
at the library
No,
or
I
something.
didn't do none of that. No. But,
makes it hard.
the kids my kids went to preschool, but I have a lot of friends now, I'm just thinking, that have the younger kids that are not sending them to preschool for one reason or another. And, just still make sure we're getting to those families to say, like, these are the 20 things, we expect your children to know 10 colors. We expect them to know whatever, because I think people would invest the time in trying to make sure their kids have some of those skills, but they're not, maybe it's their first child, they don't know what they're expected to know, that kind of thing. Just like some type of resources to make sure people I'm a checklist person, can, knows their ABCs, check, count 1 to 10, check, like I would do that. So I'm just thinking about that.
Partner Head Start actually provides funding for Ready Rosie, which is an app, and we now get it across the county.
Okay.
And what a parent does is goes and registers for an account. It's free, and they put in the age of their child, and it will send them a video once a week, a 2-minute video that talks about what that child should kind of be doing right now. It's real families and real children that did the taping, so you will see children picking their nose, and it's real, and they're very quick, and I think they're in a great number of different languages. So we really try to promote that app because it starts at birth, and then it is for families that are a little bit more comfortable maybe in a home setting or a little bit more, not going out and seeking out those opportunities. Just these checkpoints that kind of tell them what they should be doing, what they can do to get them ready. So that is a tool that we have found really helpful for the community that we may not have our hands on yet.
Okay.
I was curious about the sliding scale for the Judy Centers and for the pre-K and all of that. Well, perhaps less the Judy Centers, but for the pre-K, MSTE is so the sliding scale that we have so far with Tier 1, 2, and 3. There's changes to that. Is this going to be a formula that's similar to their enrollment funding formula, or is this formula that they're going to provide to every LEA going to be specific to the demographics and the sort of socioeconomic status of that county? When we have you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
My understanding, it's the state seat cost.
Okay.
So we're refunded each year for the year prior.
Okay.
The students that we had that qualify by income, we get that amount. And then that is, when we look at that Tier 2, those families that may have to pay, there's actually going to be 5 different categories within that. So if you're in that 301 to 300 and I think 50%, it should never be more than 7% of a total family income. So it may be, $1,500 across the school year. Then as they move up in that kind of Tier 2 bracket, it would be almost up to the cost of the seat. So each year the seat cost does increase a little bit until it tapers off. I believe next year it'll be $19,000 a seat. So part of why, Pillar 1 in Blueprint is so heavy on the funding and the high quality is that we do have smaller class sizes, more adults, so that seat is more expensive. So that's what we're going to be really digging into and hoping to learn a lot more as they just, really started putting out some guidance
I'm
documentation.
really curious how that funding is going to shift then for those programs, and just in context of everything else that we're trying to do, right, to provide these
Absolutely.
students. So
A learning curve for our public schools.
we'll get through it.
Digging in.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing kind of how that is, and also the ways that we can help support that, and how we need to maybe look at what we're doing a little differently to make sure we're supporting our pre-K, Judy centers. Again, these community schools are really kind of the vision, I think, what most people would love to see for their kids, their families, and their communities, so.
We agree.
There's no, just to be clear, there's no charge for any Judy Center services, family
there's not, yeah.
be case managed, whatever their needs are.
I'm glad you clarified that, because that's why I was like, well, not Judy Center, more pre-K enrollment, but these are two different
And
programs.
it's just our full-day pre-K seats. So our half-day programs for our 3-year-olds, there's no charge for those.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you so much, it's a great presentation, appreciate it.
So for this year, we're not implementing a sliding scale. So it is,
It's still the same.
it's still the same. We enroll our Tier 1 students, and then as seats are available, Tier 2.
That's right, it's based on availability.
Based on the availability. But if that is something that, the board is interested in and want to consider, that's a discussion that needs to happen sooner than later, because it will have some implications for our budgeting processes. Because right now, we don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to implement the sliding scale. We'd have to think about who's going to manage.
I don't want to change anything
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
I just want to be aware of, as you guys have information coming in, and
Yes.
you're looking at your internal calculations
Yes.
and changes, we just keep communicating about it, because there
Yeah.
will be, whatever those changes are to the future budget, or even just to how we get information out to families, and all of these things, the services that we're providing. Again, it's going to it'll affect different things in different ways.
Yeah.
Do we know how many Tier 2 students we are serving?
Currently,
Yes.
as
Like a percentage of
What do you project for this year?
Like, what's our projection for Tier 2 students?
approximately 50.
Okay.
Okay, out of how many students overall? Again, it was like 1,800 applied, I believe, but.
Yes, so over 1,800. We're right at 1,200 seats.
Okay. It's only 50.
That. So currently, as of today, approximately 50. And take into mind when we're looking at the data with that, we're taking out students with classroom placement or IEP services, because that's a different formula that we're
Okay. Appreciate that.
Thank you all so
Thank you
much.
so much.
They give me the opportunity to clarify that, yes. Appreciate it.
Thank you, team.
So,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you so much. It is a lot of information, and it's really good work. It's very good work, so.
And it's really each individual school.
Presenting now is Dr. Corinne Myers, our Director of Leadership and Organizational Development, and Kent Wetzel, a Teacher Specialist for Leadership and Organizational Development, just to really talk about our work with science of learning. And so we are an evidence-informed school system. And really, I will go back to 2016, 2017, when we entered this space, to really not only take a look at our practices based on our teacher knowledge and what we believe to be best, but what does the research say? And what's the evidence in all of those? And so, and the space that we're in is not only a local space, but is also an international space where we work collaboratively with people across the U.S., researchers across the U.S. and across the world, to really understand and hone in on what is best practice when it comes to instruction and how we go about teaching. So Corinne and Kent will share where we are at this point, where we've been most recently.
Yeah, so we're excited to be here and share with you a little bit about our journey, both where we've been and where we're headed, but also to provide a foundation as well. So that's what you'll see here in our outcomes. So the first part of our presentation today will be providing you just some foundational knowledge on what is the science of learning, what does it mean, and what really does it mean for us here in Frederick County Public Schools. And then talking about our journey. It has been quite some time for us here in Frederick County Public Schools. What I love is that really Maryland is now coming along the way with us, but we have been ahead of the game, which is an awesome place to be, being a leader in the state in this space. So for us, this really is about Pillar 2. When we're really thinking about the teachers in our classroom, the instruction they deliver, the professional learning that we can provide to ensure that every student every day experiences high quality instruction. That also allows us to retain and recruit that high quality diverse workforce that we know we want every child to experience. So the professional learning that we're going to focus in on today really comes from Maryland Code. So it's important to recognize that this is in alignment with career ladder code, in that it is stated that all teachers will receive training, advanced training on the science of learning by the end of this school year. Following this school year, every subsequent year, anybody new to Frederick County Public Schools, Maryland, they will also then receive that training. So it will be incumbent upon us to think about how that lives in new hire to ensure that everybody from this point forward will have the foundational knowledge on the science of learning to ensure that becomes a backbone in how we do business every day here in Frederick County Public Schools. So I have Kent, who I believe is one of our rocks in terms of the science of learning, and so I'm going to have him take over from here to talk about what is the science of learning.
Thank you all. So the science of learning is really an emerging field. It's an interdisciplinary field, and it encompasses a number of other different fields. So some of the things you'll hear is mind-brain education, which Corinne's going to talk a little bit about. It also can be called learning sciences, and you also might hear it referred to as educational neuroscience. So it's sort of an umbrella term that is all of those things. And it really just depends on the emphasis that is placed within that field as to what it will be called. So this definition actually comes from UNESCO had a forum on the science of learning, and this was a definition that they settled upon. And at the core of this definition, what the science of learning is really about is how do people learn? Not only children, but also adults. And how do we look at the way that we tailor instruction and strategies and the things that we do in classrooms to help match the way people learn and the way the brain learns. This comes from Deans for Impact, which is a partner organization that Corinne's going to talk a little bit about. We had a learning science consortium with them last year in partnership with Hood, and we used these breakdown of that definition that we just saw to sort of simplify and cut to the core of what it's all about. So as I said, it's really about how do people learn, and then knowing how people learn, how do we take teacher actions to be responsive to the way students learn? And then how are we informed from the field of cognitive science to make sure that we're adjusting the way that we incorporate the practices in the classrooms across FCPS? As Dr. Harris mentioned, we are an evidence-informed school district, and so this is a really interesting process for us as we take this research that's coming from the world of cognitive science and coming from the science of learning. We had this growing body of knowledge that's out there that's being informed, and is constantly changing, constantly emerging. And so we have this evidence that we can use to sort of inform how teachers do their practices. And Each of our teachers across our system has a different context, different setting, different group of students in front of them. And so they have to look at that evidence and determine, how does this apply to my classroom, to my students, to my context? If this study is showing me research from a college course, does that really apply to my kindergartners? And would that even be worth trying in my classroom? And so they use their experience and their own expertise and their judgment to take that research, to consider their context, and really think about, is this something that I can adjust to my practice and use in my practice? And so this is constantly changing because we're constantly getting new studies, new evidence. And so we have all this great evidence out there, and it's informing the way our teachers are teaching.
So now we're going to speak to you about where we've been, and then that will lead us to where we're headed. So as Dr. Harris has shared, we really have been, for about 8 years now, in a great partnership with the Center for Transformative Teaching and Learning. And I know that I have personally benefited from that experience. Spent 4 days a few summers ago in in-depth professional learning that allowed me to really dig into what was mind-brain education. And through that partnership, we've had a number of educators and leaders that also were allowed the opportunity to experience that 4-day academy, where you're really focusing in on what does the evidence say and marrying that to instructional practice. Then that continues beyond the deep dives and that 4-day experience to ongoing mentoring and training. And how does that then, as we know good professional learning does, how does that shape your classroom? And so they're asked to then translate that in translation groups, and Kent has served as a translation leader for multiple years now for the CTTL. And so they take a particular strategy or a particular area that they want to focus in on. They translate that into their classrooms or into their leadership, and then they continually revisit, talk about how it's going, and then they iterate from that, thinking about what's working well and what's not. Am I missing anything, Kent, that you would like to add from that translation standpoint?
Well, we have both leaders and classroom teachers, so it's really a tailored experience to what your context is, thinking about that evidence-informed context that we were looking at earlier, so that people come at it from the needs of their school, their classroom.
Okay. So be subject specific and.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And this summer, many of our curriculum leaders were able to participate in the academy.
Oh,
So, and that also helps to inform their work as they are planning for teachers in return and the implementation of curriculum.
And then do you get the opportunity to go over assessments at, you said 8 years, so you've had the opportunity to take data and assessments as you roll things out, or this is great data that we already have, but our application isn't quite meeting our goals and expectations, and do you have that opportunity during those 4 days, or is that a separate sort of situation? Or?
So it's actually twofold. So of course the CTTL does their own feedback about how the experience is and how it goes. When we've used our own grant funding to provide that opportunity, we do our feedback as well, because we do want to know how this translates into practice, right? That's important for us on our end. So it's a yes and. So
yes, and. Both. Okay, good.
And part of that is the placemat. There are 4 domains that are focused. No, you can look. So you can take an extra big. Sorry. Oh no, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just so you can see the 4 domains, this is actually one of the outcomes of our partnership with the CTTL, because this is the FCPS version. And so we were able to partner with the CTTL to really inform a particular placemat that is ours that we use.
No, but this is great, because then you can take this away to your desk, and as you're going through your your year, your semester, however it is, but it gives you these checkpoints to kind of come back to.
Absolutely.
Especially if you find you're stuck on something, like, wait a second, let me just go back, refresh my memory, kind of get inspired a little bit.
Yeah, and you can think about what area you are in when you think about those 3 circles, right? Your context is always going to be a little different. And so thinking through what particular domain you may want to focus in on, this gives you an abundance of places to go and things to think about.
Yeah.
All evidence informed, which is where we want people to really dig into. We want something that's evidence informed.
And also, I mean, I don't know, balanced stress was just the first thing my eyes hit, but it's even just reminders, right? Some stress is good, challenge is good.
And there is
There's a limit, though.
absolutely, there is a link between emotion and cognition.
Yes.
So we have to recognize that link as educators and really be thoughtful about our approach to that.
And there's got to be a level of self-awareness, I imagine, some self-assessments and techniques to understand how we are taking in this information ourselves in order to be able to apply it appropriately to kids who have all kinds of different backgrounds and so forth, correct?
And so we talked to this a little bit about the Learning Science Consortium, and I know some of our board members were able to attend our Learning Science Consortium. We had 2 years of this partnership with Deans for Impact and Hood College, where we pulled together administrators, our mentoring teachers, some curriculum folks from FCPS with Hood College faculty that really were instrumental in our folks that were becoming educators. So we were all on the same page. So year 1, we focused in on effortful thinking, and year 2, we focused in on prior knowledge and thinking about how we used both of those evidence-informed practices to ensure that our students were really focusing in on the instruction at hand and were able to access equitably the instruction in their classrooms.
The beauty of this partnership is that Hood College has now changed their undergraduate teacher preparation program to make sure that it is focused in the science of learning. And so as we hire a lot of teachers from Hood College, they're now coming in with the background of learning science, so they're not doing a whole lot of catch up on here's why we do what we do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too, in terms of the sort of the difference between someone who's newly graduated with their degree and then the science of learning and what we're trying to do here, and where some of those gaps you may see some of those gaps, and I'm sure like every state and their own programs, there's differences.
Yes. But on Monday, we spent the day with our teachers new to FCPS, and they spent time in
FCPS.
learning science.
Yes, yeah, and that's got to be something I think for them too. Some of this is probably information they just didn't, depending on the program they've been coming from. Yeah.
So that was the kickoff to our New Hire Symposium this week on Monday. They spent some time in what does it mean to be evidence informed, and so that was a great way. And I know that actually we had our opening with our leaders as well and focused in on thinking about culture and how does the evidence relate to building culture. So you will see how evidence-informed translates across the district in a multi.
Yeah, I mean, in nursing, we always call it, just the shorthand is EBP, our evidence-based practice. What is the shorthand for y'all? Do you have a shorthand that you use? No?
SOL.
SOL. Well, that can go for a couple kinds of learning. So this really, yeah. Oh my, that's funny.
So that work that we just spoke about in terms of the Learning Science Consortium, those leaders that experienced that felt like it was so impactful. They all brought to the forefront the idea that it should happen for all leaders across FCPS. And so that first year of the consortium was focused on effortful thinking. And so because they felt like that was such a wonderful experience, we translated that into an entire year's worth of professional learning for all instructional leaders last year. So over the course of last year, all of our principals, assistant principals, coordinators, curricular supervisors, and specialists, everybody received training and professional learning in effortful thinking. And so the definitions you saw and thinking about what effortful learning is in those three key criteria of is it happening, when is it happening, and for who is it happening, really thinking through all three as they're observing lessons or planning lessons is what we want them to be thinking about. And so they now have shared with us that they thought it was so impactful, they want to translate that into staff. So we actually created some optional materials for them to do some work with their staff. So we'll see that hopefully translate into our schools, and they'll be able to implement that as part of their professional learning at the school level as well.
Yeah, it's important to the communication as well. Like if you only have the instructor that understands this and has the language for it, then when you're trying to have your assistant or have somebody else help you with it or incorporate someone else into your classroom, you got to be working with the same language.
Absolutely.
It's really difficult otherwise. Yeah.
We're going to talk about how we're ensuring that we have that foundation and a common definition and a common understanding that we're going to provide all staff in just a minute.
All right, perfect.
So we have had MBE, which is under that umbrella of Science of Learning, multiple courses over the course of time. And I did have Amy Struntz, who's been instrumental in providing many of those opportunities for staff. And so we have Quick Bites. We've had those since 2023, and we've had about 117 staff members that have taken part in that. And then we have our courses, and we have 4 each on a different domain. So they're modules that folks can take. And so we've had between 60 and 120 folks, depending on the module, take part. What's great about this is that if you complete all 4, you are eligible for a micro-credential. And then once you get that micro-credential, we tap into you as well so that you can help run some of those modules. So we now have a lot of these micro-credential folks that help us to facilitate because we believe that now they have the foundational knowledge to help us lift and facilitate those courses.
So what's a micro-credential versus the regular credentials and
So what a micro-credential is an additional experience that demonstrates competency in a particular area.
very, very specific, essentially.
Very
Micro can
specific.
seem like small,
Yes.
as almost like value small, which is not really what you're getting at here.
Yes, you're right, yeah.
Really specific to a one.
Yeah, so it's competency-based.
Yeah.
So where we're headed, and so we've talked a little bit, I've kind of given you a little bit of a preview on where we're going. So we are really excited this year with the support of the code, that is Maryland, to be able to provide a 45-minute session for all teachers across FCPS about the foundations of the science of learning. That is going to allow us to provide a common definition, give folks a good overview on the model of the mind, how memory works, and so that we can use that to think about how that relates to instruction. And so that 45-minute session is already in the hands of our instructional leaders, so they can think about when they want to roll that 45 minutes out. But of course, we wanted to also think about how do we extend and expand those options for our teachers beyond that. And so we provided some additional opportunities. We have a grant that also supports $700 per school to buy additional materials of instruction for any science of learning, materials that they would like to purchase, whether it's books, even if it's paper to print power packets or resources and materials. And we've already had folks sign up to so I'm really excited about it, especially when it's only been out since Monday. So that's great.
We're excited.
Yeah, they're excited about it, and that makes my heart happy. So we're excited to see how that gets launched. Additionally, we are offering a 4-session series on the science of learning for our teaching staff, focused on the attentional foundation, so really focused in on the attention and thinking through how memory works, the practice architecture, the knowledge connection, and memory consolidation. So really pulling in 4 key instructional focus areas in terms of the science of learning. And so we get to pay 30 teachers to come with our grant. So we're excited about that. We'll offer that twice this year.
Perfect. That's great.
The other thing that I do want to talk about is the Walkthroughs website, because this is up and coming for us. So I'm going to go forward a little bit and talk about what a walkthrough is, and then talk through what the walkthrough is. So Walkthroughs is a step-by-step way to walk through a particular instructional strategy. Oftentimes we provide a broad overview rather than kind of taking apart a particular instructional strategy. So this allows teachers, mentor teachers, an instructional coach, an instructional leader to really dig deep and look at a particular strategy piece by piece and talk about, is there an area that maybe something is falling apart, and addressing that in a particular area. So it's a really great way of lensing instruction and focusing in on those evidence-informed practices, because they all are evidence-informed.
And it's a performance of evidence-based practice, because this is from the science of learning to
Absolutely
provide
it
a
is.
visual cue. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it does blend those two things, and you can create clusters, so you can pull a couple together to make a really well-rounded approach to instruction. And we are partnering with Walkthroughs this year to create an FCPS Walkthroughs website, where we will be able to house cluster tools that we've created, like one for effortful thinking, things that are directly related to professional learning that we've built out. And so we're excited to be able to launch that in the coming months.
Before I forget this question, well, it's on my brain. Because I love this, and I love for me, the professional development. This is going back to why people become teachers and educators, and always wanting to continue to do that and teach students. And that's their core, mission, right? Career mission, in a sense. So then, thinking bigger picture, the MSDA says, hey, here's some HQM, and everybody's going to use these high quality materials. Then that's from a different group of folks, right? So how do we marry what we're doing and working so hard at doing, which I think this is actually where the high quality is in this development, to whatever HQM that's coming from, that's decided upon by MSDE or the folks that they allow us to choose from and so forth. How do we marry that together? Because I don't know, I feel like at times it might be antagonistic, but maybe not. Maybe that's just an assumption that I'm making.
I think we are in a really exciting time right now, because
Good.
Dr. Harris is our Chief of Academics and Organizational Development. So we really have the perfect marrying of teams coming together. So Leadership and Organizational Development are now working directly with our curriculum and instruction folks. So we're coming to a time where all of us will be
that together.
working together to ensure high quality instructional materials with our science of learning are working hand in hand, really using that model that you saw, because our context is we have high quality instructional materials. And how do we continue to use what's in evidence, our context, and our professional judgment as educators, and pull it all together? And so we're really excited about what's coming.
That's good.
It's important to recognize that HQIM is the what.
Yes.
And this is the how,
Yeah.
and teachers need both.
They do.
And they need to deeply understand the standards, and they need to deeply understand the how, and how to shift and scaffold for different learners that they have in their room. And that's the context that in that visual is so important, is who do you have in the classroom sitting in front of you? So how do I take the what and use the different pieces of the how to meet the needs of this person in front of me? And so that's really where the partnership, the collaboration is critical.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a really good point, because there are folks that I've talked to who say, oh my gosh, I got to get my brain working again. For all of them. I know, right? Like the iReady, right? All of that for math and so forth. And I'll talk to different teachers at, say, like the elementary school level, and some that love it, some that have questions, whatever. But a lot of it really stems back to what do they understand about the use of it, right? How is this best used to accomplish the goal, and their familiarity with that, but also the comfort level with performing that, right? With the choreography of that, and that's being able to have that come together. Because this is great, but it doesn't do much if we can't apply it. So I was looking at the HQM as like an application in a sense, but really, yeah, I like the what piece too. But and it's also what is in the classroom. Right, so they can take a great professional development course, but if it's not utilizing what's actually in their classroom as part of that, how do I then do this in my classroom? Yeah. So
as we were planning for this year, we actually had that conversation about, let's just not think about Empire Symposium, let's just not think about this module, but let's think comprehensively about the experience for our teachers. And so this week they may be spending on, here are the HQIM, here are the materials, let's understand all the different components. And then in a week and a half, they're going to talk about, okay, you understand these materials, now let's talk about how you go about implementing them.
Yeah,
Yes.
and really get the most use out of them.
Yes, so a really robust plan we have for our teachers coming back in a week and a half.
No, I'm excited about that, and to see how that also will then translate over the year,
Yes.
to how they feel in their classroom, as well as in how the students are doing on their assessments, like marrying all that together, because of course, that does all feed one another. That's that culture. Yes, perfect, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I will try to make sure to make the next one. Let me know when the next, yes, I want to be able to do that.
Would love for you to come to a Spark session, or
Yeah, definitely, if you have a calendar, please, email us and let us know.
we'll do that.
No, that'd be great, I'd appreciate that. That's, I love research.
Yeah.
I had so many issues with the Math Mind book. So, that could be a whole conversation between us. But one of the things I did like was that they did bring into how important those visual cues can be, especially in early development for learning math and so forth, and, so.
Coding.
It is, yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions or comments or?
No, that's very good. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You guys.
So much.
All right, the last thing on our agenda is just looking ahead to September.
Yeah.
We meet on the 10th, we'll be already a couple of weeks into the school year. This next phase of our work together in this committee, we're going to be focused on the pathways, really tied to Blueprint, so we'll be talking about dual enrollment, AP and IB, then the next meeting will be CTE and Visual and Performing Arts. So the next meeting, we're really trying to streamline presentations for you all this year, so the next meeting we're putting under the umbrella of advanced academics. And that will include dual enrollment, that will include advanced placement, AP, international baccalaureate, and some of the programming that you heard about at the elementary level. So we're going to kind of package all that together comprehensively to try to
It also
streamline.
helps us kind of see it as a whole.
Yes.
Versus at different sessions and so forth. And then, and I'm kind of curious how with the new art, comprehensive, they're looking at doing in the future, how that could marry into a CTC, CTE and so forth, so.
So that's up for the next meeting?
Okay. Sound good to you? All right, sounds good. I look forward to that. Well, then it is 11:05. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Mine, right?
I loved it. It is streamlined. Thank you so much. We are officially adjourned.
Thank you.